All right, hello. I am Chandra, and this is Edgewise. I need to get a word in. That's my channel. Thanks for stopping by. I usually take something that is being discussed out in the general public or being discussed by a community at large, and I just kind of nudge my way into the conversation and offer what I hope to be some kind of different perspective. So for this video, I'm going to talk about something that, oh my goodness, it's just been all over the news and all over the internet and just all over everywhere, which is the subject of missing children. So I'm going to focus on missing Black children. I'm not going to apologize for that because there is a need to do so. So, missing Black children, did you know that at the end of 2025, the National Crime Information Center, which is a data gathering branch of the FBI, put in their report that at the end of 2025, there had been 136,950 reports of Black children that had gone missing. I don't want to drill down in exactly what that means on this video because that would take a little bit of time that I that's not really the point of this discussion and this conversation I'm having right now. The point right now is that that's a lot of kids, right? And you figure even if one child goes missing, I don't know, one or two or three times, that's still a lot of children that go missing. So it's something that it tends to cycle back every so often. There's a child who goes missing, and there's a high profile situation that emerges around it. So the situation that is I guess pertinent right now is of course Nolan Wells in Alabama, or is it Mississippi? Oh, anyway, one of those southern states. And um reading a lot of what was said and is being said online and social media. And I don't want to give the impression that I'm some social media maven. I got my pulse on, what everybody's saying on every social media platform. I'm on one social media platform, which is Facebook. But Facebook has a lot of traffic and there's a lot of chatter, right? So this conversation came up for me because as I was as the news was breaking and I was looking at the things that were being said, I just thought to myself, and this is the question I'm posing to all of us, is there a different, I'm going to posit that it's possibly a better way to engage when these situations come up of missing children in our community at large? Is there a better way for us to engage with each other and in public spaces when it comes to missing children in our community? So let's think about and talk about that for a few minutes. What I saw when I first, started catching on to the coverage and the fact that this had happened, this child had gone on a trip on 4th of July and he did not come back. So when that first became known and I was starting to, see the things come through my feed, I was just a little, I don't know, I had different reactions. My first reaction was, wow. A lot of people are saying a lot of things really, really early. I mean, the event happened. He went on the trip with his friends on July 4th. Well, his parents apparently reported him missing on July 5th. And immediately, I'm talking immediately, people were on YouTube and Facebook and probably all these others that I'm not really checking for, um, giving opinions, giving commentary, making predictions, um, creating hashtags, and all this sort of thing. And we being justice minded people, I so get that. I mean, hello, lawyer. Okay, but anyway, as a justice minded person and us being justice minded people, I totally understand that. However, I just want to just nudge us a little bit and say, hey, but let's remember some things, okay? Let me just give a little bit of context to why this all also hit me the way it did. I think I have mentioned on both of my previous videos that I have two sons, and both of them, I can tell you, have at least one point, and the older son multiple times in their lives gone missing, meaning there was a extended period of time which I did not know where they were and really had no anticipated expectation of when they would return, which to me is a fair definition of a missing person, right? With my younger son, long story short, he was on a bus, he fell asleep, ended up in, where he wasn't supposed to be and had to get back. Well, during that time, I didn't know where he was, and neither did anybody else. His phone had gone off, died. And so you can imagine, right? My older son has a partial disability, uses a wheelchair, but there was a time when he was going to college. He wants to be independent. He doesn't want me hovering. So I was trying to give him some space. Well, he went missing, I don't even know how many times. And this campus had he's laughing in the background. This campus had 14 buildings. So again, a vulnerable person, you can imagine that I was on the verge of becoming unhinged in both situations. So that is one of the reasons why I might be a little particularly sensitive in this area. But here's what I am suggesting to us or asking us to consider. One, let our first response, whenever something high profile comes up like this, I should say especially because if you know someone personally, like in your neighborhood, in your local community whose child has gone missing, these things could apply as well. I'm focusing here on the high profile ones because they generate just a churn of commentary and engagement, right? So, my first thought for us or suggestion is let us let the first words, the first thoughts and expressions that we go public with, because let's be honest, we can say anything that we want in private and to our associates, but when we're going into the public sphere, can we let our very first words be those strictly of support, concern, and standing with someone? We don't right away have to, start with the fist imagery and the Black Power sort of, you know, connotations. I'm not saying that those things are not relevant, and I'm not saying it's wrong to bring those in if it becomes clear that they need to be brought in. My point is that often, before anybody knows anything, the parents have barely filed their report. So clearly, no one knows anything. We are already, just to make sure I was right on this, right before I started recording this, I went back to Facebook in time and I started looking at what things were being said when it first became known that Nolan Wells went missing. Unbelievable. Right away, people were like, well, in my opinion, somebody knows who did it. And it's like, is it really time for an opinion yet? Like, I don't even know what your opinion is based on, but it just feels insensitive and it feels premature. So that would be my first suggestion. Let's consider letting the very first thing that appears on our posts, right? The things that we put out, we can control what everybody else does. But the things that come out of our posts, let them be, we've heard about this young man, this young woman going missing. We are so in support of, and we want to express our compassion for the parents and the extended family and their local community. We are praying, or whatever your expression of support is. Let's start there. That might be a good way to get things rolling and on the ball, let's not start right away with accusations, suppositions, speculations, all of that sort of thing, because it sets a tone for what comes afterwards. Okay. Number two, or the second thing, if you know someone personally, and I alluded to this earlier, who in your local community or a family member, it may not be your son or daughter, but it's a family member, niece, nephew, whatever, cousin, has gone missing, ask, ask. Since you have access to them, ask from the get go, how can I support? Granted, I've been in this situation, so I know if and when people asked me that, some depending on how soon after or what phase we were in of trying to find my sons, I really was not very eloquent in expressing what I might need. But make the ask. If the family is just they're too, discombobulated, things are too chaotic at the moment, then make a gentle suggestion. Don't come in guns and, flags and black anthem singing and, all of this kind of stuff right away. The family is experiencing a tremendous trauma, and we need to fall back a little bit, I think, and let the people breathe. Let them come to us, and let's not always put ourselves in their arena. And this leads to my third point. Let's remember that even though in our community, and this is a positive and a negative, even though in our community, we always consider all of us family, right? We say, oh, it's only 232 Black people in the world anyway, so we're all related some kind of way. And on the one hand, that's a beautiful sentiment, right? It speaks of solidarity and for togetherness and mutual support and reciprocity of interests and all of those really great things. At the same time, it can cause us in high pressure and high crisis situations to over identify and over involve ourselves with other people's um, crises. And that's just the truth, right? We feel, and people will say this online, and they're still saying it online, and there's a place for it. But hear what I'm trying to say. We will say things like, I feel like Nolan Wells or Zane Johnson or Nazir Bell or Malik Polk or any of these young people who have gone missing here recently in the past 2 months. I feel like they're my son. I feel like they're my nephew. I feel like, they're my fill in the blank, right? That is, I know the intent is good. I know it's a good heart behind it. I'm going to assume that, right? What good does it do to assume the opposite? But there's a difference between that and saying, it's possible I have a Black son as well. If we're talking about a son that's gone missing, it could have been my son. That's different than saying, I feel like this person is my son. Okay. And that might be what's contributing to us going so hard in the beginning of these things when they happen and over inserting ourselves in ways that could be triggering for families and put pressure on families to take actions when they haven't even had time to really think through things and try to find out what's what and what's going on. Those are very, very important time frames when someone, especially a child, because children can be unpredictable, they can be a little volatile. And so in those instances, those first, few hours, couple days, they are so critical. And to have a whole half of a country kind of just this, everywhere, all times, just everywhere, it can be a little jarring, and a little disorienting because you start to feel some type of obligation to respond when really you just want to find your kid. You know what I'm saying? And you feel obligated to be grateful, and we should be. But all of these obligations that get put on these families, again, we're trying to let our first expressions be that of love, support, and concern. Period. Let's not start talking about who we think might have done what. Not right away. Okay. So, and you know what the real truth is? It's that no matter how much we might identify with these families, it's their son, it's their daughter who is missing. And so we need to, you know, check ourselves and make a commitment to putting their grief and their fear and their turmoil on the forefront. Period. We've got to make room for their expressions, what they want to do, who they want to get involved. If they hire an attorney, everybody just be quiet about that. That's their family, that's their child. We don't need to start talking about, well, why they get Ben Crump. And I just think it's a sideshow. And why Al Sharpton got to be involved. You know what? Not our business. We are encroaching in an unhealthy way, unhelpful way. Um, so these are things that I want us to consider. And furthermore, do you ever think, I mean, really, while we're engaging with this in this way, do we ever stop and say to ourselves or think about the fact, I wonder how the family feels about everything that's being said, everything that's being put out there? I wonder if they agree, if they disagree, if they really feel like, you know what, can we just have our privacy for a minute? Now, when people pass away, immediately white people will say, can we just have our privacy? Black people, you hardly ever hear them say that. I think some of them are scared to say it. They feel like they're going to tick off the community if they ask for some privacy. That's crazy. Okay, we can't put people in this position. So, as an example of this, right, we don't want our support, what we're trying to express as support, we don't want that to become a negative, right? We don't want that to devolve into co opting someone else's situation or, God forbid, exploitation. We just don't want that. I know in our hearts we don't want it, but it sometimes is the unfortunate outcome of the things that we do. And this is an example. There have been, usually there are all kinds of photos and renderings and, all this kind of thing of the child who is now disappeared. They are not able to be located, right? I thought to myself, I wonder how the families feel, especially the parents, when they get online and they see these images of their child that they had nothing to do with, didn't know anything about, don't know where they came from. Because some people are literally going on the internet and just picking out profile pictures or whatever that they see of these kids in different places. That's another video. Um, I wonder how they feel when they're confronted with these images of their child like that. Now, some parents might be like, oh, yeah, you know, wow, that's a really nice drawing, or I had forgotten about that picture that he took, for his yearbook or on his football team. But something tells me that some parents are alarmed by that. And it's again, disconcerting is the word that keeps coming to me because it throws you off balance. We got to think about these things before. And yes, we can go back and edit, we can pull stuff down or whatever. But if it's been out there for any length of time, it still has its effect, right? It's still done some work. So I'm suggesting to us that we take a collective breath, literally, physically, if we have to. Another one has gone missing. That we think carefully, more carefully, because some people are going to be like, what's she trying to say? That we ain't, okay, let's not do that and let's not go there. I'm saying think as carefully and as intentionally as we can. Let's pull back a little on our reactivity two things and really ask ourselves, how can we give these people space? How can we let them know that they're on our hearts and we're just wishing and hoping and praying the best for them? Whatever. But we have to find, I think, a different way to engage with these situations so that our support really is support and not just another sort of thing that the family has to manage. Make sense? All right. Well, that is this edition of Edgewise. Thanks for letting me get a word in. I'll see you next time.